Queens, welcome to In Real Time, the sassy, no-filter business podcast where we catch founders mid-pivot, mid-meltdown, and mid-magic. No polished stories, just raw, in-the-moment conversation about what it really takes to build something that matters. This is business, uncut, unpredictable, and happening in real time. So let's get into it. Okay, welcome to the podcast, Kim.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh my God, I feel like you're like the girly that I very first, I would say, connected with around like business, like solid business.
Yeah.
So having you on, so exciting.
I honestly feels like such a privilege to be one of the first guests.
I know.
I do kind of feel like we should be in like hotel robes and like have our hair in like towels.
100.
And have like a big bowl of fries or something.
Yes,
you know,
and like
room
some
service.
chilled red.
Yes.
Absolutely. I just did this with Beth and we had margaritas and I was like,
amazing.
That's me and Kim. But we did that last night, guys. So today's more wholesome.
It's a Monday morning.
Kim's been for a spin class.
Yep.
I rolled out of bed. The whole vibe. But before we start anything, I asked the same question at the start, and it's what are you moving through in your business at the moment?
Oh, okay. What are we moving through at the moment? I am working on some personal things that I am trying to, some business muscles that I'm trying to grow, and then we're working through some business things. Maybe I'll start with the personal things.
Yes, I love.
So the personal thing that I am working on is putting myself into more uncomfortable situations. Actually, probably this is a really good space for me to be in because I really want to try and work on my public speaking.
Love.
And my reduction in filler words. I'm really trying to not use as many likes and ums, which is so much easier said than done, and just speak with a lot of clarity and conciseness. I think I can be a little bit of a rambler when I get to the end of my sentences. I notice I like trail off. And so just this year, I'm like, I really want to try and be a bit more considered in how I use language as a tool and the way that I can kind of clip sentences at the end, which is a bit random. But I guess it's like when you have been in business for a long time, you start to like tweak the things that don't feel as important at the start that you realize like over time, like communication is so important.
100.
Obviously being in, you know, when you're like raising money and you're sitting in a boardroom full of men, how do you make sure that you're as confident as you can be and your projection is, you know, as great as it can be.
Absolutely.
So that's something that I'm working on personally at the moment. And professionally, what is something that we're doing at the moment? We actually just closed one of our venues, which is something that we haven't actually done before. So over the last few years of our journey, we have only ever opened venues. And obviously, inevitably, a lease was going to end.
Absolutely.
And so we knew we were going to get to a point where like a lease would end and we would, you know, decide not to renew that lease. And that was really interesting. It was a really interesting like time in our journey, in our like, you know, our 10-year, our experience, our business plan, to be at the stage of like closing a venue and like and again, like obviously the whole point of the whole journey of Nudo, we've only ever done new things. Like every single time we've done something, it's felt like something new that we've yet to experience. And so this was one of those, but I think because it obviously didn't feel like going backwards, but it doesn't feel like forward progress. Like it's not like you're opening a brand, you're opening a venue. It obviously feels like the inverse, but obviously it was a very conscious decision and we're really like, you know, really happy with where we are. Yeah. But it was such an interesting learning opportunity for our team to, you know, obviously end a lease with a lot of integrity and making sure that our clients always came first, our experience came first. And up until that very, very last event, we were delivering it with absolute excellence. And then how do you close a venue? How do you end a lease? How do you, what is a make good clause? Like learning all of these things. So that's something that we've been working on that has been, I think, quite fascinating, quite an interesting journey for our team and for myself.
I love that. So Nudo events, I think in saying that, before we go into Nudo and what it is and your brand and everything, I think it's really important, and we were just talking about this at breakfast, about how as a founder, you're always, I feel like it's kind of like you're always on these train tracks and something personal is happening and then something business and then it's personal and it's business. But they both very much are together in terms of like the growth and experience and they kind of mirror each other, whether it's your personal or business. And that's just like a forever thing, I feel. No matter what you're kind of learning in business around like, you know, closing down your venue and, you know, you're at least coming to an end and going in a different direction and whatever, then the other side of that is like, okay, well, how am I bettering myself as a business? Oh, it's like, it's always just those train tracks.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's speak about Nudo. Give us a rundown of yourself, Nudo, what you guys do, kind of a short little thing. Yeah, give us a spiel. Give us a spiel.
Okay, so I am COO and co-founder, and I've got 2 business partners. And originally, I'm actually a florist by trade. So at school and then even after school, I didn't really have a solid plan of what I wanted to do. And I went into retail, I went into reception. I always knew that I loved being client-facing. And then through my retail kind of journey, I worked next door to a florist shop. And I remember thinking back to that time because I had zero interest in it. Like I have friends obviously who are florists and they have such beautiful floristry journeys. They're like, I was picking flowers as a child and no one was surprised I got into floristry and like, you know, and I'm like, wow, like that was not me. When I told my parents I was studying floristry, they were like, floristry. Random. Like they did not get it. Yeah. But at the time I had logged on to like a TAFE website and I thought, okay, well, what are some cool short courses? And I'll just start to see what clicks. And so I actually was like, okay, I want to be a bit of like a wedding expert. And so maybe I'll do a bunch of wedding short courses and maybe I'll do floristry, hair and makeup. I'll become a celebrant. I'll just do all of these things. Like I'll be a coordinator. And then the more I looked into floristry, the more I was like, actually just floristry in itself is piquing my interest. And this is before I even did the course. The more I read up about it and the more I understood it. But yeah, like I said, my parents were super weirded out. They did not understand it at all. And I was like, no, guys, you don't understand. This is my passion now. It's my identity. And so I started studying floristry. And then halfway through the course, a friend was getting married. And so she asked me to do her wedding flowers. And I was like, okay, well, to get into a market, I need an ABN. And to get an ABN, I need a business name. And I was reading a poetry book at the time. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just name it like inspired by this poetry book. And I laugh about the fact that I'm a COO now because I really did not intentionally like set out to be a business owner. I didn't set out to be someone who's like operationally like, you know, looking at P&Ls every day. Like if you'd have told me that in high school, I would have been like, what?
You're
sorry?
Yeah.
And so I started my business really by accident. And then I, you know, luckily had quite a few friends at the time, friends of friends getting married. So then I kept doing their weddings. And at the time I was in Melbourne and I knew I was going to be moving to Brisbane. So I moved up and I think that was really great because Brisbane's it's a smaller pond, so you get to be a bit of a bigger fish when you kind of make a name for yourself. Yeah. And I think that was one of the best things that I did for my business because the word of mouth in Brisbane as well is also really strong. And I got on some cool lists and on Instagram and stuff. And then I met my partner and we decided to move back to Melbourne. And I thought, yeah, well, this will be easy. I'll just take the success of my current business and I'll just plop it into Melbourne and it'll be exactly the same and I will be able to be a success overnight in Melbourne. And obviously, plot twist, not how it went.
Yeah. Did not happen
that way. And I, like every business owner, like I, you know, now very much identify as an entrepreneur because like even looking back at the time, I'm like, okay, well, the only sensible thing to do is now start a second business on top of my first business so that I've got 2 businesses and 2 like income streams. So I started a second business and I had just basically rolled out all of like, I just done the shoot, I just rolled out all the collateral, I launched the website and Nudo slid into Anatomy of Flowers DMs. And I went onto Nudo's Instagram and it was all just like stock images. I thought it was like a bot account, like a spam account.
You're like, who this?
And they wanted to talk to me about floristry and they, at the time, it was like a vertically integrated events company, which is what we are now, but they wanted it to be more of an app at the time.
Okay.
And I thought that was a really cool idea because I had come from, I was doing like a second job because down here my business just didn't take off like the way I wanted it to. I was working at Deliveroo head office and that was really my first exposure.
So rogue.
So random. It was my first exposure really to startups though. And so that was like a really nice juxtaposition between running a business and then working in a startup. And so then when these, you know, 2 guys approached me and they're like, hey, like we're from the wedding industry and we want to disrupt it. I was like, okay, I get disruption because I'm from startups as well. So like that language, I understood it and it appealed to me because I'd been in the wedding industry for a long time and it was ready for disruption. Like no one was out there trying to solve the problems that the three of us identified and realized pretty quickly we needed to solve, which is that wedding and event planning is so friggin' stressful, and nothing about it is centralized at all. Like, the person at the center is the couple, and they have the least experience and the least exposure to how anything works. And everyone's great at doing their jobs. Like, all of the vendors are great at doing their jobs and making sure that I was a good florist and, you know, my business partner was a good photographer.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you were just... You were the couple was the center pin and the linchpin and everything. So you were feeding your information back into them, and then they were harboring everything and trying to pull a run sheet together while obviously having full-time jobs. A lot of the time now people are building houses at the same time as they're getting married. They're having kids. Like, it's just so complicated. And so basically the boys and I sat down one day and really kind of identified what the problem was, which is that it's so fragmented. The client journey is so fragmented, and it's so stressful, and it's unfair to put the couple at the center of it. And no one was really zooming out and being like, okay, well, what could be a better experience for the couple? And we realized pretty quickly it was, can we have all of our services be like vertically integrated? So you come into the venue and you have all of the services that the client can choose to use, so that the stress of decision fatigue is removed straight off the bat. Then also, can we put them on payment plans so it feels like you're almost like lay buying your wedding? So then we remove the fatigue of like having to manage multiple invoices, because you often are booking like between 8 and 15 vendors for your wedding. So you've got all of these different payment cycles, and they're all different, using different payment platforms. Okay. And so you're kind of trying to keep up with all of that. Yeah. And then we
just the overwhelm. Like, I can see how so many people would just be like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Exactly. And then we knew at the center of it we wanted to have planners. Yes. And so at the time we originally charged for the wedding planning component. And then over the years we realized that it just wasn't the right business approach to say that this was such an important part of the journey that we valued so highly, and we knew that the clients would have a better journey because of it. And our teams then have a better journey because of it too, because everything's smoother, and not put our money where our mouth is. Yeah. And so we actually now offer wedding planning for free. So anytime you book a Nudo venue, you get a free wedding planner. But essentially, going back to the start, when Nudo hit up Anatomy of Flowers, they wanted me to come in as the florist, and my two business partners had identified that couples really shop venue first. So we knew we needed to have a venue portfolio that the couples could buy into the venue portfolio and then understand more about Nudo and the stress-free experience. Yeah. And so we signed our first lease, and we renovated the whole venue ourselves, because obviously you don't have any money when you first start a business. So you fly all your friends and family down from Queensland and you give them a paintbrush and you say good luck. Thank you so much for being here, and you buy them a slab of beer. Yeah. And so we were renovating our first venue up until literally the night before the first wedding. Like the venue smelled like paint, because we were painting door handles and everything up until the very, very last minute. And then the first wedding happened, and we just couldn't believe how much of an amazing experience it was. Like, the couple just like loved the journey, and the feedback was so strong, and it was just such a special experience. We obviously were there for the wedding because the couple were like, you guys have to stay. And so we were like dancing with them on the dance floor. And it was just like, it was such an amazing experience looking back. And from the business side of it as well, we knew that the idea was so validated, because the three of us had come from running businesses where it does feel a little bit like you're kind of pushing shit up a hill. Yes. But then when you find the right thing, you know that it clicks. And so before we'd even opened the doors of our first venue, we hit $1 million in sales.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And so the validation of knowing that this actually clients really wanted this, and we were filling a gap, and there was a market need for it, we knew. And then that first wedding was like just icing on the cake. Like, the feeling of being there in that first wedding was incredible. And so over the years we have slowly brought more venues into the portfolio, and we have slowly either opened brands ourselves. So we've started a photography and videography brand, and we've started a styling, stationery design, planning brand. Yeah. And then we bought a catering company. Yeah. So then over the years, we've essentially like started to bring the services actually in-house under our umbrella. Yeah. And we're really happy with it, where the services and the venues are at the moment. And it's just been an amazing, it's 8 years this year.
That's insane. So I want to go back to that first DM. So these random people DM you. Yeah. How did you choose to then make that decision, and how did that work? And then what did that look like in terms of like business coming together? Does that make sense? Like, because I think anyone that's listening would be like, oh my God, that sounds like that's all too much.
Yeah.
So how did you figure out kind of like ownership, co-founder, what their business was doing, what Anatomy of Flowers was doing? Like how did you kind of decide to kind of merge that all, and how did that happen?
Yeah. So when they hit me up, they basically wanted to just get to know me and Anatomy of Flowers.
Yeah.
And so I went and met them at like what's now one of our venues. So at the time it was just basically a construction site, and they pitched Nudo to me, and they said, okay, so Nudo is this vertically integrated events model. We want Anatomy Flowers to be the florist.
Yeah.
And that was it at the start. So I was just the florist. And I said, well, it's a bit of a no-brainer, because essentially what you're saying is you're going to give me a booking on a silver platter. Sounds good.
Easy.
And then the more they started to speak to, obviously they, at the time they were like doing sales inspections in the venue, and couples were asking them questions. They had actually started making bookings. And so they were calling me and they were asking me questions, and they were like, oh, what about this part of the journey? What do you think of this? And should we make this journey shorter, or should we like add this service in here?
Yeah.
And so I realized that the three of us were really good at, we kind of like fit a really nice Venn diagram together.
Yeah.
And I was probably the most recent one in the industry.
Yes.
And so my expertise was a little bit more like timely and relevant. And so then I can't even remember who it was. Either I proposed or they said to me like, why don't you come and work full time?
Yeah.
And then that way we can have your expertise around all the time, and the three of us can start building this thing. And so then when I came in and it was the three of us building it full time, Anatomy Flowers was still running outside of Nudo and inside of Nudo.
Okay.
And that's when it started to get a bit complicated, because I was working obviously like, and again, like every business owner does this. You work and, you work a full-time job, and then you have your side hustle. And but at the time it was like I was doing Nudo, I was doing Anatomy Flowers inside of Nudo, and then I was doing Anatomy Flowers outside of Nudo. And my bookings were in Queensland, and I was flying back and forth. And so then the boys and I sat down together one day and said, how can we make this easier for all of us? Because it really would make the most sense to have AOF sit inside Nudo.
Yes.
And so we started to talk through what essentially was like looking back, like our first acquisition. Like how do we like essentially buy Anatomy Flowers and roll it into Nudo? And like, what does that look like? And then at the same time, it brought up the co-founder conversation. Yeah. Because it kind of, again, made the most logical sense that the three of us were building this together. We were building the journey together. And then if Anatomy Flowers rolled in, what could that look like to have for the three of us to have a partnership? Yeah. And so then that really opened up the door for that discussion. So it was actually quite a natural progression. Like it wasn't, I think the three of us didn't set out to have this really structured business plan from the start, where we were like, okay, the first business coming in is going to be a floristry business. And, I think because the three of us did work, so we complemented each other so well, and we recognized that it was something quite special.
Yes.
We just knew that what each three of us could bring would be like a really unique set of skills that I think we recognize looking into the future would really build Nudo into what it is.
I love
and
that.
I think, I don't know, it's just like it was a little bit innate. Like we just knew that it was
natural evolution,
a bit special. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we just grabbed it by the horns and, went for it.
I love that so much. I feel like I think the overwhelming thing for people would be the beginning of that story. And then I think knowing that things can unravel in more of an ease, like slow way.
Yep.
I think people sometimes get so overwhelmed about any kind of decision. Like, do I do that? Do I not do that? Then what about that? Then what about that? And I think it's more about like taking a step back and just being like, okay, what makes sense right now?
Yeah.
And it sounded like that evolution just made sense.
Yeah.
And it was just meant to happen.
And it's just trusting your gut as well.
100.
And also just being curious and asking lots of questions. I think the three of us, the thing that I have always loved about us, and to this day, like we are not afraid to be wrong.
Yeah.
Like the three of us are very humble. We're humble to each other. We're humble in front of our team.
Number
like,
one necessity.
Like if we don't know something, we'll be the first to put a hand up and say we don't know it. And so during that process, I'd never gone through selling my business before. The boys had never gone through acquiring a business before. We'd never gone through starting a business and bringing a co-founder in. And so it was new for all three of us. And I think that it helped that all three of us were very curious and just asked lots of questions. Yeah. We made sure that if someone didn't feel comfortable and with something, like let's say, for example, it was like accounting, like, okay, how does it all work from like an accounting point of view? Okay, well, let's go and get the advice. Let's the three of us sit in front of an accountant. Okay, cool. Like
all together.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, Kim, do you want any more advice? Do you want to seek advice on your own? And like, I think there was transparency was just number one. Like, like we really put all of our cards on the table. And I think that was what started to build the foundation of trust too, which is obviously so important when you have business partners, that you trust each other just
100%
so much, because, scary out there.
It is scary. And I guess, looking looking at like a business like mine, I started in a garage. I bought a few strands of beads. It's a very low investment in terms of like money, mental health, fear.
Yeah.
You went into this business, and especially with that first lease and you guys renovating it, like going into a commercial lease of that size.
Yeah.
When you look back, was it just pure delusion? Were you just like, okay, well, we're doing it. This is the next step. Like, we're getting this lease. Because even when I first signed our very first tiny warehouse, like going over that lease, I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? And what does that mean? Like, there would have had to have been a moment in time where all three of you were just like, well, fuck it. We're just going to, we're just doing the thing.
Yeah. Yep. I think delusion is the right word. I think we often say we were like just cowboys as well because, and I think like, naivety, like when you use naivety to your advantage when you're a young business owner, I actually think that like sometimes when you move through your business journey and you become less naive, obviously it's good because you stop taking less risks that are silly. But then also sometimes I think it actually does stop you from just like being creative. Like because when you're young and you don't know any better, the solutions you think of are so random. And like sometimes they work. Whereas like the more you actually learn, the more pigeonholed you find yourself becoming. And it actually becomes harder to like think so like creatively and like outside the box. And so, definitely cowboy, like just absolute renegades, 100. Like obviously signing the lease. And we tried to be as smart as we could. We knew that like we obviously weren't going to go out and get an architect and an interior designer, like it was me against IKEA. And so like it was
just
just
make this look so
literally with a budget of $1. And so we really just tried to be as like smart as we could and like and think about like impact areas and how could we make sure that we just as much as we could didn't make like silly financial decisions. And then really I think the thing I think about as well all the time is like this is like the big Delulu vibes is when we went into COVID, we obviously were so lucky at the time to have such great clients that really, really, really trusted us. So we had like less than a handful of cancellations during COVID, which is like unheard of. And so, but obviously what that meant was that we came out of COVID with no free dates to sell because we basically rolled 2 years of couples forward and said like, of course you can get married on this new date. Like we want to host your wedding. And so then as we came out of COVID, we were like, interesting because we know we're going to be coming out of COVID with no dates to sell. And obviously that's not a good thing for a venue to have when you need to obviously have the, like your available dates is your like that's your gold. You need to be able to sell that. And so we thought, okay, well the only thing we can do, which feels like so Delulu and renegade-y, is sign more leases at a time where like it was so precarious. People, and I think it worked in our favor because people wanted to get rid of leases because they had just gone through 2 years of COVID. And so we got these crazy good deals that we would have been silly to say no to. And so what that meant was we were able to come out and then like sell those dates and then be able to like kind of right the ship again, which when I think back to stuff like that, would we do that same thing now? I honestly don't know because I think we're smarter and wiser and sometimes that does make you a little bit less risky. And I think that risk was something that we were totally delusional about and it worked.
Completely.
And it's one of the things that I think, where naivety kind of works in your favor.
And I think as well, I do think it comes down to the more when you begin, you don't have a lot to lose. You don't have a lot of people's lives in your hands in terms of their livelihood. The more you have, it's more of like you still have it in you to take that risk and be delusional, but you do just have more of those like blockers that are like, okay, well, I've got all this stuff and I've got to make sure this and is that going to work? There's just more thought that goes into it. I think we're still just as likely to make those decisions because I think it's bred into you and that's why we're entrepreneurial. But I do think you stop a lot more and you're like, oh my God. To begin with, I want to talk about finances and kind of starting that journey. So I know that Nudo reached out, you guys came together. How did you fund that first, venue? Where did that come from?
So at the originally, right at the start, we basically just approached friends and family. So we had investors basically from the start, where people were essentially paying our salaries, paying our, which again was nothing, and paying for like obviously like our like our lease costs at the start, our bond, our like all of our commercial fit out, everything. And that was the only reason, like friends and family genuinely were the only reason we were able to get to where we are.
How did you approach that?
I mean, a lot
Were
of
you
it
just
is
like, I'm starting this venue and I don't know, and I need you to give me the money.
Yeah, I think because like we were in such a lucky position to have a lot of entrepreneurial friends around us, and so then they believed in like our entrepreneurial spirits.
Love.
And so they really wanted to be able to like back us and support us. And I think friends and family, like if you've got the right people in your lives that have watched your journey and know how passionate and how hard you work, like they're prepared to support you. And
Absolutely.
and like and again, like I fully recognize they have to have the financial means to do that, and like what a privilege to be able to reach out to friends and family and be able to garner that level of support. But yeah, like obviously at the time we knew that we probably needed to cast a net wide because we didn't want to put individual risk on one specific person or like a few people. So right at the start, we had like quite a few investors, like kind of right off the bat, because they were giving us obviously smaller amounts, which obviously benefits them because at the time our valuation wasn't very high. So like the equity they got in return was, you know, nice, sizable because we were not.
True.
And so like, whereas now, if you like, you know, if we were to raise again, like we're at a different valuation, so it obviously has worked in their favor, which is great. So I've got a nice big old slice of the pie now.
Yes. I love that. I think when it comes to, and I think especially females in business, like when it comes to any kind of money, raising money, I would just have nowhere to start.
Yeah.
And I think we have these conversations a lot about, you know, that gender imbalance in terms of that world. And we were talking this morning about AI and all of that kind of stuff. Do you think if you were to start another business now, or say there was we were talking about that incredible girl last night that you were talking about from TikTok.
Yeah.
Do you think that getting that investment as a female founder is worth it at a younger stage of your business? Or would you kind of recommend more pushing and trying to do like the family and friends and have less people involved in your business?
I think like my advice to any business owner would be like keep as much equity yourself as long as you possibly can. Like we really didn't have a choice because we had to. We were such like a there was so much capital needed up front.
Absolutely.
That we couldn't fund it from cash flow because of the way that our services work and the way that our like sales journey works. And so we kind of had no other options, apart from doing that. But my advice would be like hold on to your equity as much as possible. The thing that is interesting about it is that it does teach you a lot. Like going through that journey, it really forces you to like be across your numbers.
Yeah.
It really forces you to be brave and be in rooms that feel intimidating, and it forces you to have hard conversations. It also forces you to get rejected. And so like that, I think those skills, like when I watch a lot of female founders that are like publicly raising money on like, and they're talking about it on TikTok, I love watching their journeys because I think it is a really like the skill set that it affords you so quickly is unlike anything else. It's unreal. And so from that side of it, I would say like it is like a pretty incredible thing to do. And especially being a woman, like, yes, there is a power imbalance. Yes, you have to, you know, learn very quickly how to like be treated.
Absolutely.
You know, unfortunately, sometimes respectfully, sometimes equally, like, you know, how do you make sure that you are always putting your best foot forward? And so, yeah, I'm really loving watching like the women founders that I follow, like, you know, publicly raise money and go through that process and how they talk about what they prioritize in terms of like what skill they think is the most important and like why they're working on that skill, because it's often not the skill you think. Like Sophie Hood said that the best skill that you can learn is being a good storyteller, which I wholeheartedly agree. Like the amount of times you have to get in front of like a room of like 8, you know, 50-year-old men and then pitch your business. If you are not a good storyteller and you cannot engage them,
false.
Like they don't care about the numbers because you've lost them off the bat. Yeah. And so like being a good storyteller is so important. Like that skill is actually like incredibly up there. But yeah, so I think like summarize all that. Hold on to your equity as much as you can, like, and do not dilute if you can avoid it. However, if you are going to do it, like, really recognize the benefit of the skills that you will learn, because you will like, it like you learn so quickly and it's so incredible.
And I think that's business in general. I think if you go into business with everything being able to give you a lesson or teach you, you grow 10 times faster. Yeah. And even how you're saying, you know, like, yes, you're going to have rejection. You're going to have to be in these rooms. You're going to have to learn all of that. If you take that in your stride and you're like, okay, this all is really difficult. I'm going to learn this. I'm going to master it. You like the speed in which you just catapult is so much further than someone who's just always at resistance with it.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to do that because like it doesn't work. You just you've got to just like literally just continue moving forward and take it in your stride.
Agreed. And we spoke this morning about like your background as a nurse. Like I think when you come from any sort of role or like job that is like confronting.
Yes.
And like whether that confrontation is like something like being a nurse, which is like so like mentally confronting, or if it's like working in a call center.
Yeah.
Like I think those skills are invaluable because like that's what starts to build that resilience. And like resilience is so important when you're an owner, because like you literally fall on your face more times than you can count. You get
100.
rejected more times than you can count. And so like that, like specifically understanding, like being able to like look back on your life and going, okay, cool. Like have I had the opportunity to face rejection? And if not, what can I do to build it?
100%.
And putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. And like I speak to so many like business owner friends where they don't want to do that. Like they're not prepared to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you should be doing that. You should be like physically working out like what makes you the most uncomfortable you can possibly be and seeking it out and doing it.
Something I found around that at the moment, whenever I'm speaking to founders, it's always around content. It's like not always, I should say, but I would say 8 times or 9 times out of 10, it's around that resistance to content, like the resistance to rejection, to no one seeing it, to no one wanting to engage. And I always just come back with the same thing. I'm like, there's no other option.
Yeah.
If you want to be forward facing, you want to use social media to technically market your business for free.
Yeah.
You have got to get uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like no different to being in a boardroom, right? And being rejected.
Yeah.
The more you do it, the less it hurts.
Yeah.
Like the less you have that like rejection sensitivity that you're like, oh my God, like no, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
You're kind of just like, okay, cool, another one, all good. We're gone. And we're on to the next thing. We're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
If people like took every no personally, you wouldn't be able to have a business.
Literally, you wouldn't get out of bed.
To be in business.
Yeah, yeah.
You'd be absolutely just
you
like
couldn't
ruined.
face today. Exactly.
No way.
Yeah. And it's climbing like, climbing Cringe Mountain. Like it's like you just need to start and you just need to get out there because like and even for me, like I still probably find content. I've never found it like cringe or embarrassing. It's more like the time and effort that it takes
challenge
to like get there and to do it. But I still find a bit of a barrier for me is that like I always want to make sure that I come across in a very specific way.
Yeah.
And I think even that is like, I need to just get over it. Cause like, you're right. Content is about just like throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks sometimes, especially on TikTok. It's such a fast moving platform and you have like such a finite amount of time to like capture people's attention because it's not just who follows you. You just get shot out into the world.
100%.
And so like it's just about like, doing it. And then eventually you'll find something that feels like a bit more of a rhythm. And then you're like, okay, this is my niche. And then you kind of off you go.
It. And what's that saying? It's everything's embarrassing until it's successful.
Literally.
And the second it's successful, everyone's like, oh, I forgot that you had to go through that for
literally
3 years of no views or your business not getting any sales or whatever. Like, it's like Olivia Dean, the Queen, speaking about how she's had this overnight success. But in reality, she's been launching albums and songs and everything for 8 years. And only now is she a success?
I know.
And she's
I'm loving
overnight.
watching her, like, people watch her, posting her TikToks being like, I saw Olivia Dean at, like, a bloody bookshop, like, 5 years ago. And then it's like, but now she's performing in the Grammys. I'm like, yes, because that's what happens. Like, people aren't overnight successes. And, like, that even that term, I think, is, like, so, like, frustrating, I think, for people because, like, that it just, like, it's so rare that is so actually true. Yes. Like it's 9 times out of 10, it's like there's hustle in the background. And then like, yes, something happens and you boom, which is great. But like it doesn't.
Your actions compound.
Yeah,
and then they finally become successful.
Yep.
So speaking of, you've launched Nudo, you've grown, you've been in business for nearly 8 years.
Yep.
What is the one thing that you didn't expect from business and how have you moved through that?
I think I didn't. We spoke about this last night, actually, like how much business ownership is a mirror. Yeah. Like I didn't expect to be so like self-awareness is so important and but it's like such a double-edged sword because like you can't, it's like the light gets turned on and you can't ever turn it off.
Yeah.
And so I think I didn't expect it to be such like a journey of like self-reflection and self-evolution that like you can't get off the train.
Yeah.
And so I constantly am thinking about like, okay, like could I have done that better? Okay, cool. Like, oh, I had that conversation and did I say that right? Okay, like next time, like what outcome would I want differently? Okay, like how could I make sure that that person like feels more supported?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Like, oh, that discuss like, and it's just like that is like on loop continually.
Constantly.
And I think like that I didn't expect that to be as loud as it is, which I'm grateful for it because I think it makes me a better leader. It makes me a more empathetic person. It makes me, you know, want to be able to like want to always be my best version of me for my like, so then therefore I can show up as a better boss, like as a better colleague, like all of the, as a better partner, all of these things. So I think, that part of it has been really interesting and how I have worked through it. I think I see a psychologist. That helps.
Yes. Cheeky therapist.
Yes.
Thanks, girl.
Thanks, girl.
Thank you.
Seeing a psychologist helps. I think just having a lot of compassion for yourself is important because I think it actually gets harder to do. It's similar to like what we were saying before about business where like you become less naive. I think it actually becomes a lot harder to be compassionate for yourself because you should know better, you know? And so like your mistakes start to feel, you think that mistakes feel, you feel them less.
Yeah.
I actually feel like I feel them a lot more because as I move through business and I do something where I'm like, oh, okay, I got that wrong. Instead of being like, oh, okay, well, like that was an opportunity to learn. I'm like, okay, well, should I have already known that?
Yeah.
Like what was I not doing to have not known that? Like, okay, where was I spending my time that wasn't here? So because I wasn't building that skill because I wouldn't have made that mistake. And so it's a lot harder to have compassion for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it's the most important thing because if you don't give yourself grace, like again, you won't get out of bed, you know? No. And so that has been something that it is a muscle that you have to build and you have to work on it every single day. I think like it's almost like that self-talk where you can feel yourself kind of slipping down the slope and then you have to almost catch yourself and be like, okay, hang on a second.
Yeah.
Like previous you did not know that. You know that now. So looking back, it's easy to judge. But guess what? Like 6 months ago, Kim like didn't know what you know now. Yeah. And the decision she made it with the information that she had at the time. You would make it differently now. And like, that's a reflection on growth, girl. Yeah. Pop off. And that's it. Like, you know, you 100. Kind of have to like talk yourself through that feeling and then leave it at the door.
Yeah, 100%. And I think also to add on to that, you're always going to carry the burden the most because you were the founder. So I think like I've been the exact same in terms of that mirror. Like it's a constant mirror. Like how was my tone? What did I say? Did that land right? Did that? And you constantly think about it. And something I've learned is just sometimes I'm like, it just wasn't that deep.
Yes.
No one else is thinking about it. Like you're overanalyzing it.
Yeah.
And some things can just be left where they are. And it's so funny. I'm not sure if you're the same, but I've had so many bosses where I've been like, I would never want to be that person. And I couldn't even be close to them if I tried.
Yeah.
But I think I still overanalyze myself where I overanalyze like, oh, how did that sound? How did that come across? And I think Sherry, the cafe owner that ripped me a new one when I was 14. Yep. She never gave a fuck.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
So like we're already doing better than anyone else.
Yeah. And I think like having good people around you that hold up the mirror in a really nice way is helpful too. Like I spoke to you this morning about our head of people and culture, Lauren, who literally was like one of my favorite hires today. Like, love you, girl. She's not a Nudo anymore, but like seriously love her. Sometimes I would get in these like self-talk cycles where I'd be like, oh, okay, like I just feel like this. And she'd go, oh, okay, interesting. Show me the pattern. Show me the evidence.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And she's like, well, you think that you're, whatever it is, like you think you're displaying this behavior. Like point to it. Show me it. And literally you're like, oh, actually, yes, that's right. I have made this up because I'm crazy. Like,
yes.
And
I'm like, trying to tell, like, your body, your brain is also like, this is something I find. Like, your brain is always going to try to convince you of what makes you safe. So telling you that you're crazy and that you're always doing this and you're a bad person and rah, 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 will make you quit your job, right? So it'll make you safe.
Yeah.
But it's not a reality. It's not the truth.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also think, you know, especially being women in business, and it's not to like bring it back to being a woman all the time, but I'm so much more careful about my tone. I'm so much more careful about the way that I'm perceived. I'm so much more careful about every aspect of that. That I find sometimes I'm just like, you know what? Men would never care.
Yeah.
they're not going home, they're not worried about it, they're not overthinking it, they're not overanalyzing it.
Yep.
And I've tried to really like talk myself into like, you don't like, not everything needs to be overanalyzed as much as you do.
Yeah. That's actually the interesting part about having male business partners, because I remember like early on in our like, you know, business partnership together, we clashed over something and I went home and just obviously ruminated over the whole weekend.
Of course.
And then I came back on the Monday and I was like, hey, like, I'm really upset. And they're like, why? And I was like, well, why didn't either of you call me? And they're like, why would we have called you? And I'm like, oh, because like, this is how it went for me.
Yeah.
I left that work on the Friday and then I went home and I talked to my partner, and then I talked to my partner on the Saturday and the Sunday, and I thought about this and I felt like this and and they were like, oh, interesting. We haven't even thought about it since Friday.
Yeah.
And I was like, what
do you mean?
Do you mean? Like, and so like, you know, obviously like I think it's a important in that crossroad. I was like, okay, I can learn from you and you can learn from me in this moment. Like, probably would have been nice for a phone call. So let's maybe build your empathy muscle.
Yes.
And then also like on my side, I'm like, well, why was I killing myself over this thing that you guys were looking at so differently and so black and white, and like, how can I take a bit of that and like bit of that audacity, to be honest, and channel it into myself, because, you know, it's like I got nothing out of feeling like that, and they got like nothing out of me feeling like that. You know, it's like it served no one.
Yeah.
And so like, how can we try and like get to a place where like, yeah, we can kind of like force each other to grow and teach each other things to like next time not get there. But yeah, it is interesting like working with men and like just when you kind of like explain your thought process, and like this isn't obviously every man and every woman, but like because I'm like faced with it daily.
Absolutely.
I'm like, wow, yeah, okay, like there are definitely very different trains of thoughts here, and like I can do with a little bit of what you're doing and what you've got going on.
And sometimes it's just important. Sometimes I'm like, actually just no.
Yeah.
Like just absolutely no.
Yeah.
I feel like the landscape at the moment, and this is like something that I just love. Like we were at dinner last night and we're talking about the founders that we've kind of seen in the industry. Who would you say at the moment, with your knowledge, with your expertise, with business, that you're seeing online that you're like, I love what they're doing? Or you can see them like, you know, you can see that success before it's come. Because I feel like something that I'm learning is the more I'm in this game, I can spot it. Like I'll be scrolling or I'll be seeing something or I'll be having a look and I'm just like, that, whether it's the person or the product or whatever it is, there's like an essence or something that I feel where I'm like, that's just going to work. That's just going to land.
Yep.
Do you have anyone at the moment that you're kind of watching, or a personality trait or something that you have found quite repetitive?
Yep. Someone I'm loving at the moment is Lily Twelfy. She is a beauty tech founder.
Yeah.
She's actually, I think she's over in San Fran at the moment. And again, like I think the thread I realize, or like the through line that I realize in founders that I love is like grit, audacity and determination. I just love watching founders. Like she did a TikTok the other day and she was like, I just don't get it when founders are like, oh, I don't want to like do content for my business. She's like, I would literally strip naked and run through the streets if it meant getting my business awareness. And like, I like lolled so hard because I was like, so true. Like,
so
and
true.
I think that there's like a real difference between like founders who think like that, like founders who are like, no, like, what do you mean you want me to film a video and post it? And like, of course I'm going to do that. Like, why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah.
Versus a founder that's like, I'm just, you know, like, and it's probably also like I am a bit like I'm quite fast in my decisiveness.
Same.
So someone who's kind of like hovers in between, like probably like irks me a bit. So
Yes,
like I love founders who are just like
yesterday and we're moving forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I love watching founders who are just like you can just tell they've just got grit.
Yes.
And like they're passionate, they're smart, they speak about interesting things, and I really love it. And I think like probably like it makes me realize that I should probably do this more, but like I love it when founders post a video and it's just their thought process.
Love that.
Like, you know, and like I think Lily does that really well, where she'll jump online and was like, oh, I was thinking about this the other day. And like that's the point of the video, just what she was thinking. And I watched the whole video and I comment, I'm like, girl, love your brain, love your thoughts, thank you so much, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
And like it's just when you obviously are watching someone's journey, and like she's at the early stages of her business, like she's really only just kind of started the app, and like it's just really interesting watching her from such an early stage, because like to your point, I'm like, I feel like I'm like tapped into like the next big thing.
Yes.
I'm like watching her, I'm like, come on. Like I feel like I'm like betting on a horse. Like I just think she's going to do amazing stuff. So like I'm loving watching her. Who else am I loving at the moment? Oh, obviously my friend Miranda. Oh, so funny. Love
iconic.
her. Yeah, she's
just
so funny.
She is like, like she posted a video last night, actually. I don't know if you saw it, but she was like, if you want a really high carb, high calorie, low protein dinner, this is it. And literally. I was like, so like just someone who's so authentic. Yeah. It just fucking lands.
Yeah, literally.
And I'm like, oh,
I know.
That
so
is
funny.
just like refreshing. And and this is what I was going to talk about with like content, you know, showing up as a founder, especially as a female.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, we sometimes we overanalyze like what we post about and what we post about. And then we see these people like the Mirandas or, you know, and they're just so authentically themselves, not even talking about what they do for work or anything. But I'm like, I want to know everything about you and how do you show up in that field? And then what are you doing? You're in a high corp. And I'm like, I find it such a like inspiring and like makes me want to be more gritty and authentic. And
it makes you realize when you don't post when you post to like out into the ether and not to a specific person, it actually like doesn't land.
No.
And I think sometimes like that's where I maybe fall down as well because like, you know, I even said it before, I'm like sometimes I just need to post for the sake of posting, but I'm like, I do think like that, but I think like you do have to have, I think what has separated people like Miranda or like even like Ashley Holson and like these people on TikTok that are just like so funny and specific, like they have like garnered an audience for being like 100% themselves
100
at the expense of pissing people off. Yeah. Like they don't care that they're going to grate people the wrong way. And I think like that's probably something that I come up against that I personally struggle with that I'm like, and I don't know whether you feel similarly, but like being a founder and being like the face of a brand, I feel like I can't piss people off because I don't want people to feel annoyed at my brand. I don't want people to go, oh, well, she had that opinion and like that opinion wasn't right and therefore I'm now going to like judge the brand because of it. And I feel like what I end up happening is like I end up doing like people pleasery content because I don't ever want to be like too divisive and I don't want to rock the boat. But then when you watch these people like succeed, they succeed because they are prepared to rock the boat. And so I like have been sitting with that like a lot recently. I was talking to someone about it like, gosh, like probably a year ago, and I still haven't like pedaled to the metal because I think I just like there's definitely something like holding me back at the moment. But and
you can't like one thing I will say is you can't make that decision and do that divisive content until you're ready because it doesn't land. Yeah, because your body's half like one
people
foot in and I'm one foot out
hesitation.
and I'm not sure and you know. But I think it's so true. I think people who are just like so like this is my brand and this is my opinion. Yep. And you can like one or the other. Yep. And then not like one, but I'm still the face of that brand. Yep. It's a very like sticky kind of touch point to be in. I think a few other creators that I've been loving and seeing, I'm not sure if you've seen her. Her name's Millie. Obviously iconic name.
Obviously queen, yeah.
But she's from the UK and it brought me back to the storytelling that you were talking about. She has a like electrolytes brand with this man. Yep. I really know nothing about the brand, to be honest. I don't drink electrolytes. Yep. But her storytelling is like out of this world.
Really?
Just the ability to captivate with a piece of content. And that I wouldn't say my content is that captivation. It's more just like real, authentic, a bit messy. But people who nail that just fucking nail it. And it is I don't even want to say it's like a skill or I think it's just you have the ability to do that or you just don't. Yeah. And I just think people who can do it, you're just like, oh my God. Yeah. Like, I see.
Exactly. And like good on them for taking advantage of the skills that they have, you know, like because I think you probably can become a good storyteller. You know, if you are not a good public speaker, can you become a good storyteller? I think the answer is yes. But I think it is like the hard part is making it feel genuine 100. Because the people who are just good at it, like their storytelling is so genuine and you're just like locked the fuck in.
Absolutely.
You know, like they open their mouth and you're like, tell me more. Yeah. Like I just like you're like you just like caught me from the first word. And so like how like that really I think separates them and like they don't have to really work at it. But like how amazing that they have that skill there that they could probably even like turn the tap on more and like it's only going to get better because they already that foundation that they've started with is like they're already ahead of in front of the field. You
Absolutely.
know?
I would love to just know to finish off our app. I feel like Nudo and the brand and I guess the company that you have built is a company that's so I could imagine deeply built off word of mouth. Like people are getting married, they're fucking loving it, they're sharing it with their friends. And of course you do socials and everything like that. What have you found the most important thing to grow your customer base or to have people share Nudo outside of socials?
Oh, I'm probably not going to give you a great answer because it's actually, and maybe this should have been my first answer to something that you're working on right now, and it's probably actually a better and grittier answer and a funner and like less grim answer. So we really, like, when we started, I said it this morning when we were sitting at coffee. We spent every year like opening a venue, opening a brand. We were like just building processes in the background. Like everything was just happening so quickly that the actual brand of Nudo, we never really spent much time in brand marketing. Like we spent a lot of time in like, okay, like how do we like set up ads and how do we like in like digital performance marketing. But in the actual brand exercise of like getting Nudo out there, we never spent much time in it. And I mean, there was two reasons for that. One, because we didn't have the like time and like it wasn't a focus. Like we were doing a bunch of other stuff. And the second one was because we identified pretty quickly that people shop venue first. They don't shop like experience first. So they come in and they pick the venue and then they're like, oh, bonus, I also get the Nudo journey. Whereas like if they actually were shopping for experience first, then it would have been worthwhile pushing the brand like, you know, earlier on. Obviously now we're at a point where we're like, okay, like we've built this really beautiful foundational like we've got our venue portfolio, we've got our services, we've got an amazing team, like we have a great NPS score, our clients love us, like we're like refining our processes. We're in this time where we actually like have kind of come up for air. And we're like, well, actually it kind of makes sense that the next step, that the next thing we look into is brand. Absolutely. Like how can we actually get the brand of Nudo out there and like what does that actually look like? And because we want to rely less on like obviously word of mouth is like so powerful and like we always want that to be an avenue where we get leads from, but we want to rely a little bit less on paid marketing. Because like with paid marketing, like obviously as you know, like you with a brand, with a service brand, trust is so important. And if people are booking us because they're seeing an ad versus booking us because either they've heard it from a friend or they know that we're a brand that they trust, like that is always going to be like they're going to come in and have a better experience because that brand connection off the bat is so much stronger. And so the brand side of things is like a whole new world for us that we're only just looking into at the moment, and we're just going to get started like in the next 12 months. And so what that looks like, we're not sure. We've got like a few different exciting kind of things ahead of us. But I think the tide hopefully will start to turn for people to like think of Nudo as like the educator, as the expert, as the industry leader. And so therefore when their friends get married, they go, oh, well, have you heard of Nudo? Like they're these people and also they have these venues. Like you should go and, you know, you should go and inquire because like our brand presence is so big and people know us for like, you know, what we want to be known for. So that would be really, really cool. And I think that's where we want to get to. At the moment, it is a lot of word of mouth. And it is, you know, relying on, I think the tricky part is that when people get married with us, their friends don't get married in the same venue. And so that's what helps having like a diverse venue portfolio that they're like, well, if you want to get married with Nudo, like they've got other venues. It's just that because people buy first, the venue also has to be right for that couple. And so like, it's like a little bit trickier than you would think it would be to like kind of get for a few people in a friendship group to get married with you. Of course. I mean, we do have it. I had a bride DM me personally the other day. Shout out to Tori. And she was so sweet. She messaged me and was like, I just had the best experience ever. Like, I just want to shout it from the rooftop. Like, honestly, it was like the dream day of my life. Like, I just want to make sure that you know, like, I'm going to tell every single person I know that's engaged, like, to get married with Nudo. Like, loved it so much. And I was like, oh, thanks. Like, word of mouth is really important. And she was like, yeah, well, obviously I got married with you because, and she listed off like 3 or 4 friends that had been married with us.
I love that.
And I was like, oh my God, that's so, I didn't realize the connection of like, and I was like, wow, that's like a real pinch me moment. That was really sweet.
And I also think that's so fucking cool. Like, I think that is just not the experience that you would hear in terms of like growing your brand, socials, word of mouth. That's so rare. You know, these days it's completely socials. You build that up and then word of mouth. The fact that you've built a brand that is so strong on word of mouth because what you do is fucking good. Socials is the icing on the cake. Like it's the it'll take figuring out what content lands for your consumer. But once you've done that, it's so much easier than trying to reconvince people that your product is good prior to that. You've done the foundational work. Like, you know what you deliver. You know, like, what you're doing. Socials can just be that fun journey.
Exactly.
Amazing.
And then like the brand on stuff on top of that is all, like you said, like it's like the sexy sauce, you know.
Absolutely.
Like, can we collaborate? Like, you know, where all our venues are in Melbourne. Melbourne's like the hospitality capital of Australia.
Yeah.
Like, can we start to collaborate with, you know, chefs? Like our head chef, he's amazing. He comes from really cool restaurants in Melbourne, and like he has lots of friends that are also head chefs at restaurants in Melbourne. Can we start to do collaboration menus where like couples get to book these like collaborative menus that like, you know, bring a restaurant in for a month and do like, you know, so I'm like, we just have, there's so many cool ideas where like the ecosystem of hospitality and weddings and events is kind of like, it's a bit untapped in the way that we want to do it, like for like a weddings and events company to come in and do it. And so, yeah, we're really excited. It's going to be a fun 12 to 18 months.
The fun has just beginning.
The fun is just begun.
Oh my God. Well, I'm actually just going to pick your brain for another episode.
Yes.
But we'll leave this episode here. Where do we find you?
Okay, so my TikTok is Kim Brindell. Nudo is Nudo Events on TikTok and Instagram, and we have lots of brands and venues. They're all linked in Nudo's Instagram, so you can go and stalk all of those.
And Kim's absolutely slutty on TikTok. She's hilarious. Your videos are so good.
Oh my God, I love being described as slutty. I'm going to put that in my bio.
Oh my God, absolutely. Slutty.
Slutty.
It's like this year for my 30th. I was like, Millie's slutty 30th. Don't come unless you're feeling slutty.
Kim Slutty Brindell.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I love you.
Love you guys.